Well, welcome everyone. This is Sarah Pearson. I'm the assistant conductor with the Symphony of Northwest Arkansas, and this is Ben Harris. I'll have him introduce himself a little bit more. Ben, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you do with SoNA?
Sure. I'm the general manager of the Symphony of Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, and we're so excited to have you today because you not only work with the Symphony of Northwest Arkansas, you also are working and a founding member with the Fayetteville Jazz Collective, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we
Yeah.
started the band in 2009.
All right. And we are getting ready to do a collaborative concert with them coming up. And that's what this call is about today. On Saturday, April the 8th, we have what we're calling the Battle of the Bands. If you can only imagine what that's like, a battle, it's like back and forth, right? But we're going to come together too in our battle, so to speak. But first, we want to get to know you a little bit, Ben, and then we're going to talk about the program, if that's okay.
Sure.
So, what first got you into music? You play guitar, correct? Yeah. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah. I've been playing since I was a kid. I guess I was around 13 when I started, and music was always a big presence in my house growing up. My dad was a big music fanatic and a huge fan of Beethoven. In fact, he had so much Beethoven stuff. There were albums all over the place. There was a bust on the bookshelf. There was a framed portrait of Beethoven. And, he knew all the pieces. He knew all the stories. He just really loved Beethoven and his music. And in fact, I grew up thinking that Beethoven must somehow be some member of our extended family because he was everywhere in my house. I think I was about 13 when I actually asked my mother how we were related to Beethoven and was kind of devastated to learn that we're not at all.
I don't know. They just recently found, I was reading an article yesterday about this, that they just recently found DNA, like hair from Beethoven, and we're tracing it back. So you never know. Maybe recheck again.
They're always discovering something about Beethoven. It's interesting what a fascinating character he still is.
And is that the bust behind you on the shelf that you
That actually is a newer one.
okay.
I don't know what happened to the old one, but that one, my dad acquired that maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
All right.
And it wound up here when he passed away about 3 years ago. So that's a remnant of the Beethoven, the
And
Beethoven.
appropriately, we're playing Beethoven on this concert. So he would be so excited that you are playing on a concert that Beethoven is. So that's pretty incredible.
Mhm.
So you started playing guitar, obviously surrounded by Beethoven and music in your house. Who inspired you to make music, or what inspired you to want to actually go with the guitar?
My earliest memories are of music and music being played around the house and seeing people perform. And I can remember distinctly watching is actually a Paul Simon concert, watching Paul Simon on TV and watching him play the guitar and having that moment of realization that, oh, that's where the sound is coming from. He's doing that with his hands. He's making the sound. And I actually remember that sort of light bulb moment. And that was a big moment for me, realizing that wow, these sounds, they don't just exist out there. People actually do something to create these sounds.
Mm.
So that's what kind of started the whole thing for me. And when I was a kid growing up in the tail end of the 70s and on through the 80s, if you were a guitar player, Edward Van Halen was the king. He was just the biggest thing in the world. And of course, I listened to his music and loved him just like everybody my age did. But the thing that got me about him was that, anytime I saw him playing, he just seemed to be having so much fun. He just had this huge smile on his face all the time when he was playing. And so in my mind, I always equated playing music, and in particular playing the guitar, with just that sense of unbridled joy. It's just always been a source of joy and just fun for me.
I love that. And I would have to say that similar for myself. I remember one of my conducting teachers, I was smiling in Beethoven. He goes, "Do not smile in Beethoven." I was like, "But I love it." And he's like, "But you have to be in character." That just made me think of that.
Yeah.
I remember he would like try to put the book in front of me, like, do not smile. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That made it even worse.
Yeah, to me, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be, or just the way that I appreciate music is as an uplifting experience. I mean, it's serious business and we take it seriously, but at the end of the day, it's for me, I want to make people feel good with music because
Mm.
that's what I love about it.
That's awesome. So if you had the chance, obviously you just talked about those that inspired you through your early years as an artist. Who would you collaborate with? If you had the opportunity, if the sky was the limit, they were like, look, you can go play guitar for this person. Who would that be?
God, there's so many. I mean, there's just an endless list. Um, I mean, people that I have sort of idolized my whole life and looked up to. I mean, I guess most of them have passed away.
Mhm.
There are jazz artists like Benny Goodman. I always loved his music and just the sound of his band. Duke Ellington,
Oh yeah.
is he's a giant in the field that we play in. So people like that, but also people that are still with us, like Stevie Wonder
Mm.
is somebody that I think of again, that sense of unbridled joy. I mean, I can't imagine listening to Stevie Wonder and not feeling good.
Right.
So Stevie Wonder, Herbie Hancock, people like that. There's a long list of people I would love to be able to play with.
That's awesome. So if you wouldn't care to share, what is like a cool like thing about you that nobody knows? It could be a useless talent, it could be something that you have in your back pocket that you like, this is my thing.
That no one knows.
Well, that few know about, or our audience doesn't know about that. Obviously we know you play the guitar now. We know that you're a general manager and doing an incredible job with that. So what are some things that maybe people don't know about Ben?
When I was a kid, before I really kind of pursued music as a lifelong path, I thought I wanted I thought I wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Really?
Yeah, those were my other heroes when I was a kid. Outside of musicians, it was people like Robin Williams and George Carlin, Richard Pryor, people like that.
So do you
So
still have like an act? Do you have like your lines that you kind of like in your back pocket? You could stand up and do it.
yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah. When the Jazz Collective, usually when we play, I get to be I play the kind of MC role, kind of the master of ceremonies, and do all
Fun.
the introductions, and I tell lots of corny jokes, and so it lets me kind of tap into that and sort of relive that childhood fantasy of being a stand-up comic.
How fun. Like I like will like improvise and MC sometimes in the concerts that I conduct them. Some of the musicians like they're funny guys. They're like they try to do rim shots. I'm like, that's not really funny.
Yeah. You
But
know,
yeah.
yeah, sometimes our drummer will sometimes oblige me with a rim shot, but usually the band has heard all of my corny jokes so many times. They're usually not even paying attention anymore.
So this may tag along to what you were just talking about, but what would you be doing right now if you had not been immersed in music growing up, and if you didn't work at SoNA? What was something else that kind of was on the back burner that you would be doing for a career if music was not that thing?
I really don't know. I don't know. Every time that question comes up occasionally, and I really don't have an answer. I mean, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian when I was a kid, and yeah, I mean, I would still love to be able to do that at any level, but I never really thought about doing anything else outside of music. It wasn't even a deliberate thing. It just never occurred to me to even think that way. I've just always done this, and whether I'm on stage or not, it's still just being around it. If I'm backstage and running logistics or planning for a concert in advance or doing booking and things like that, it's all part of the same thing. It all goes to the performance of music. And so I don't know, it's just or whether it's teaching, whatever it is, as long as it's involved in some area of music, then I'm happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of feel the same way. I'm like, I've been asked that before, and I'm like, well, I definitely would probably still do music. I couldn't imagine anything different myself.
Yeah.
So if you do you care to share like some places that you've performed? I know FJC has been all over Fayetteville. Maybe share a little bit about what that ensemble is, where you just kind of give us some background on the group that's going to be playing with SoNA.
Sure. Yeah. So the group is made up of 17, sometimes 18 people, and we're all local players. We're all friends. And the group came together, almost 15 years ago, just out of a desire to play some big band music. Because most of us that play jazz, we usually do it in smaller groups, combos, trios, quartets, that type of thing. And most of us played in big bands in college, but after you get out of college and you're not immersed in that atmosphere where you're surrounded by other players, there's not as many opportunities to play in a big band.
Mm-hmm.
So it came together by just the desire of all of this collection of players that wanted to play together and wanted to play some big band music. And so it's really important to us that we're able to come together and play the classic stuff like Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Benny Goodman and things like that. And then also play some more modern music, some more contemporary things by composers like Gordon Goodwin and Victor Lopez and people like that. And we have we sort of refer to him as our musical director, but Rick Salonen is our baritone sax player, and Rick does all the arranging for the Jazz Collective. And we play a lot of Rick's music, and that's really fun because he just writes for us. So we're the only band that plays his music, and he's a powerhouse of an arranger. Anytime we need something, if a function or a concert comes up where we need something specific written, Rick will take it on and he'll knock it out in a couple of days. He has an amazing work rate. So that's a really unique feature of our band, is that we actually have original music that we play.
So it's like an artist in residence, a composer in residence, if you will, too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do y'all have upcoming shows? I know we have the one coming up, the Battle of the Bands. Do you have like a website you can direct people to know more about your ensemble?
We do all our stuff through Facebook nowadays. It just seems like that's where all the traffic is. So we're kind of keeping it all on Facebook. So we're going to be playing one of the Forest concerts at Crystal Bridges Museum in Bentonville. They have a thing called the Forest Concert Series, where it's kind of out in the woods. They put up a stage out there.
Cool.
And so we're playing one of those I think it's in July. And then we've got another thing at Turnbow Park in Springdale. I think that's in August. And then we've been doing a monthly residency at George's Majestic Lounge on Dixon Street in Fayetteville. And that's really fun to get a big band in a bar where people can get up and dance, and very loose and informal. And that's a lot of fun for us. So we're going to keep going with that as well. And we'll have announcements about all that stuff on our Facebook page. But, right now we're just really focused on the concert with SoNA.
Yeah.
We've done it a couple of times now. And so we know it's a big deal for us. And so we've been preparing ourselves pretty intensely with weekly rehearsals for the last few months, and we've got a lot of new music to play. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I was looking at the program order and I'm just like, wow, these are some amazing pieces that I can't wait. Do you want to talk about any of those that you all are preparing? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. We're doing what are we doing? The collaborations with SoNA are going to be really interesting because we're doing some kind of back and forth arrangements of pretty well-known pieces. So one of them is the first movement from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which everyone knows. That's like, to me, that's one of the most recognizable pieces of music ever written. Everyone knows that. Right. And so we're doing something different where the orchestra will play a section of it, and then the big band will play a section of it, and we'll kind of go back and forth. And the sections that the big band plays are arranged by our friend Rick Salonen. And that's kind of a hobby of his, is to take really well-known pieces of classical music and arrange them for the jazz band.
Love it.
And make them swing and make them, give them a lot of sort of upbeat energy. Not that the Beethoven is lacking in that, but but it's interesting because he doesn't rewrite these things so much. He doesn't really change all that much. So if you're really familiar with the Beethoven, hearing the big band play it will sound very familiar, but it'll also be a completely new experience for you.
Yeah,
So it's
fresh.
really brilliant the way he does that.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Some other ones that I think people will know, like you're doing Summertime by Gershwin.
Yeah, that's going to be fun because we'll have a special guest vocalist
Mhm.
singing with us on that. Our friend Janine Latrice Perez. She's a singer that she lives in Little Rock now, and she's somebody I've known and been playing with for almost 25 years now. And she's one of those singers that is, I mean, she opens her mouth and just the sound that comes out of her just kind of stops people dead in their tracks. And she's so much fun to play with because I just love watching that when she starts singing. And even people in the room that may not be paying any attention to the band, when she starts singing, they immediately turn around and focus all of their attention on her. She's phenomenal. So she's singing Summertime, and that's going to be a brand new arrangement that Rick Salonen wrote specifically for this concert. And she's also singing on a song called At Last, which
Etta James Atlas.
yeah, the Etta James song. Yeah.
But I
So
mean, it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be a wonderful experience for our audience because it kind of throws out the norms of what they expect with some of these pieces, like what you're saying about the Beethoven piece and then the Gershwin and stuff. And then some of the other traditional pieces that they would expect are going to have a twist to it. And I think that's exciting, you know, instead of doing it the same way we've always done it, have a new perspective on it. And that's just going to be so exciting. What would be, and then this might be hard to say, what would be your favorite piece that you all perform? Like at least right now where you're tracking, like your favorite one that you play.
they were playing on the SoNA concert.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
Yeah, there's a song that the one, I think it's the only original song we're playing on this program. There's a song called Good Night, Mr. Waters.
Oh yeah.
That's a really special one for us because it was written by our pianist, Claudia Burson, who's kind of a local legend in Northwest Arkansas. She's a world-class jazz musician and just one of the best people you could ever meet. And so this is an original song of hers, and Rick Salonen wrote the arrangement that the band plays. So it's a true sort of internal collaboration in the Fayetteville Jazz Collective. And it's something that it's really special for us to be able to play a piece of Claudia's music, and we're always happy to play anything Rick brings in for us. And it's a lot of fun. It's a high energy piece. It kind of draws from gospel music a little
Okay.
bit, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. We usually close our shows with it because it's a big, it's just a big epic arrangement.
Maybe you're
And
like your
really,
signature piece, you would say.
what's that?
Be like your signature piece, like this is what
Yeah,
like this embodies who we are.
I'd say so. Yeah, that would be the one. Mhm.
Yeah. So what would you say, we're going to shift gears a little bit away from music, but what would you say is the best advice that you've been given before, whether it's music or just about life that you think that would be impactful?
Man, there's a lot just about life in general. Um, don't ever think that you'll have time to do something because you won't. You know, every time you think there's plenty of time, we have plenty of time. There's never time. That and just, you know, somebody, I don't even remember who it was, but early on in my experience with music, somebody told me about the 5 Ps. You know about the 5 Ps? Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And so just this idea that great performances start in the practice room, and that it's all about preparation, and the more prepared you are for the experience of performing, the better it's going to go, and the more that you're going to be able to put distractions out of your mind and really just focus on the music. So preparation is everything. Preparation, and there is no substitute for experience with anything that you do. Those are some pretty important things that were passed on to me pretty early on that I've tried to keep in mind.
Those are really great. And I think even anyone in our audience could apply that to whatever profession that they're in, or students or whoever are joining us for this video. I think that for can be applied across the board. All right, so shifting gears again, what is the most trouble that you've ever gotten into, like gotten for? That's like shareable.
On the gig or out, like outside of music? That's probably
Either one. Well, I'll let you decide.
the most trouble I've ever gotten in. I mean, that's a long list. I was seen as kind of a troublemaker when I was a young person, and I think it kind of goes back to the thing about wanting to be a comedian. I was kind of the class clown. I would sort of do anything for a laugh. So I got myself into a lot of situations that could have been easily avoided by just utilizing some restraint and not going for what I thought was going to be a big laugh. That has pretty much been the source of every trouble I've ever gotten into, trying to go for a big laugh and just a slight miscalculation. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we don't have enough time in this interview for me to get into all the specifics, but that's always been my biggest sort of hang up, is going for the big laugh and just misjudging how far to go.
But I bet that you remember those moments, and it's probably served you well. And because you're very easy to talk to, but you've been in those conversations where it's just like, okay, you have to really lead the conversation. So that kind of personality and like getting the laugh and stuff really helps when those awkward situations come up with people that are kind of like, you get stuck every time you ask them a question and it's like crickets.
Yeah, I mean, it comes in handy a lot, but at the same time, it's like just that finding that balance of knowing how far you can go is always that calculation is always kind of running in my mind. Keep myself out of trouble.
Well, thankfully, music has kept you mostly in line. And we're so thankful for you at SoNA, because as our general manager, you do an incredible job of keeping all of the moving parts happening. As we wrap up today, Ben, can you think about anything else that you would love for our audience to know about Battle of the Bands coming up, about you or your ensemble, Fayetteville Jazz?
Sure. Yeah, I think the main thing that I would want people to know in advance of this concert is that it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very different from, the usual orchestra concert. Not that those aren't fun, but it's a different sort of dynamic when you get the jazz band on stage. The jazz, we can be pretty silly sometimes. And so again, this is serious business, and we take this work very seriously, but we don't take ourselves so seriously that we don't like to cut up and have a good time. So that's the main thing I would want people to know, is that it's going to be familiar but fresh at the same time, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and enjoyable, be present.
Yeah. For me, it's a big thrill because it's, I'm on stage with the group that I've been playing with for almost 15 years, with some of my closest friends that I love playing music with. And I'm on stage with sort of my other family, the SoNA family that I know so well, that I've worked with for so long. And so it's a very special thing just for me, selfishly. It's like all my people are all together on one stage. And so
like all of your worlds collide, and it's just a beautiful thing. I'm so excited.
Yeah. That's the best part for me, is just having all my people together.
Yay. Well, I can't wait. It's going to be so exciting, and it's coming up fairly quickly. So make sure everyone, you get your tickets and make your plans, and be on the lookout. Inside the Music's going to have some music links for you to be able to enjoy and kind of get familiar with what this is going to sound like. And you can learn more about the Jazz Collective as well. You'll see some things on there. Ben, thank you so much. This has been wonderful to be able to get to know a little bit more about you and about your ensemble, and then how that's going to merge together with SoNA. So we can't wait. This is going to be an exciting night with the Battle of the Bands. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Ben. And we will see you all again on our next installment of Inside the Edition of Inside the Music with SoNA, and hope to see you at Battle of the Bands. Have a good one.
Thanks. Thank you, Sarah.